I own 275 rental properties that I've bought without using any of my own money. While that's cool for me to say, I understand that doesn't really benefit you and it's not very relatable for you. So what I'm gonna do in this video is I'm going to sit down and interview a brand new real estate investor, Kanika. She's part of my mentorship, which has helped her, but she also got started before that. We're gonna walk through her very first deal. We're gonna talk about how she found it, how she funded it, the issues that she had finding contractors, and all the things that brand new real estate investors go through trying to buy their first rental property, even in today's market. So this video is going to be very relatable for those of you that want to get started investing and that are newer to the game. Hope you enjoy. I'm excited to have you. This is fun. I talk a lot about the stuff that I do, and it's not always relatable to somebody that wants to get started, right? Hey, I just bought my 275th rental when somebody's trying to find their first.
Right. Just got through one. So
just got through one. So that's what we're going to do here. I know you're newer into the space, and you're doing a really good job, and you're starting off quickly. So I thought we would just talk and have a conversation about how your journey has gone.
Okay.
We're going to talk through, how you got started, through why you're in real estate, talk about your first deal and kind of some advice for new investors. So why don't you just start out, just talk a few minutes about yourself, who you are, where you came from, what you do outside of real estate.
Okay, so I'm from St. Louis. This is a completely brand new area for me with real estate. Didn't grow up with like parents or anything into real estate. So whole new career field for me. Right now I am a physician, so I do practice medicine full time while doing this.
What kind of physician?
So I'm family medicine,
okay.
And I do the whole spectrum. So I take care of newborns, I deliver babies, take care of dads and uncles and grandmas and everyone. So I love what I do, but it's also a little time consuming, but we'll talk about that. So outside of real estate, I'm a physician. I do a lot in the community too. So I'm really passionate about like substance use. So I do a lot of like community education around opioids and treatment and, changing the stigma around substance use, alcohol, all of that stuff. So that's kind of like my community work that I like to do too, something I'm just passionate about. Yeah.
What specific field do you like? Dealing with the younger kiddos, the older? Like, what's your favorite?
My heart goes out to moms and babies.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, moms and babies, and then of course the dads can come on too and get care. But
you can come if you want, dads, I guess.
But moms and babies. Just, my own personal experiences with being like a single parent and delivering on my own. So it's kind of like I have a heart and passion to really be there for pregnant moms, and then afterwards, just that postpartum period. So it's a lot of my own, I think, personal experiences with the healthcare field has like driven me to be the type of doctor that I am today. And so that's my passion, but I see everyone. And then passion number 2 is the addiction medicine space. So, I take care of a lot of people, active addiction, in recovery. That's another thing that I'm becoming passionate about. The more I understand the harms related to substance use and how families have been ripped apart. So that's another passion with just reducing the stigma and educating people about that as a chronic disease. So,
well, I like that. So that's awesome. Well, thank you for doing all that.
Thank you.
So you have a passion for that, and
yes.
Obviously, a lot of schooling.
Yes, 13 years to be exact.
13 years of schooling. Jaden's barely 13 years old, so you started when he was born. So you got, a lot of schooling, a lot of time, a lot of money spent into it.
Yes.
And, now you're at the point where obviously, you're doing well. You've been a doctor, but you're deciding to, with your very busy schedule, carve out some time to invest in real estate. So why don't we talk a little bit about why you decided recently, you may have been thinking about it for a while, but you decided recently to take that leap and invest in real estate on the side. What kind of brought that about?
So 2 different things. So first, the pandemic. The burnout factor is so huge among the healthcare field right now. I think for me, it was just that constant being on 10, like every day going to the hospital. I was scrolling through Facebook, and it was actually a physician couple who had their initial podcast, Physicians Building Wealth in Real Estate. And I was just like, let me check into this. So their whole platform targets physicians. And so I was listening to some of their podcasts, and they were talking about how they were able to replace their W-2 income, and, work is more enjoyable. They're going to work because they want to go to work. It's not because they're feeling stressed out and, have to work for the check. And so that was my initial interest. And then Pandemic really hit hard, so I got affected with COVID and kind of like changed a lot of different things. And then the second time when it came around was my husband. He was actually well, we sold my house and we were living in like his property until our house was built. And he ran into a property manager across the street and was like, yeah, my wife's expressed some interest in real estate. And she's like, oh, have your wife call this particular person. And was like, you know, she mentors a lot of young ladies. And I was like, oh, wow. And I was just telling my husband, like, oh, my goodness, I'm so burned out. I want to do something different. And he always had an interest in real estate as well. And so it just kind of like aligned. And then, I think I ended up really diving deep into it when I met Kayola from Faster Funds. And it was just, I put in an inquiry and it was just like, for some reason we clicked and he was so passionate and it was just like, okay, I can do this. And he like explained his story like the first time talking. And then it was all down here from there. I went home, was telling my husband excited about it and got the pre-approval. And I'm like, oh my goodness, we need to do this. And then I met Shelly and Dusty. Mm-hmm. And that came about, I think, at the start, I was calling different local banks just trying to inquire about, I'm a new investor, what are my funding options? And it was a banker who connected me with, I think she's like a banker, mortgage person. I can't think of her role. But she connected me with Dusty and Shelly. Mm-hmm. And then we went out to dinner with them. And it was just like, I became friends with them on Facebook. And I kept seeing like Faster Funds. I was like, are you all connected? Mm-hmm. And that's how it went. I mean, it was just like we were welcomed into the family and, you know, come to the Buyers Club. And it was just kind of like, you can tell it was genuine people who really wanted to see you succeed. And then sharing their stories, and it was real stories. It wasn't like this made up stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's what really got us. It was like, these are real people doing this. And then they were also motivating and encouraging us. Like, you got this. This is where we started from. And it's good to hear those early on stories mm-hmm. and not only just focus on the success stories. Like, what was the struggles? How did you get into it? And that's what they share with us. And it was just encouraging to know, like, yeah, we are ordinary people who can also do this too.
Yeah, that's just the real life of it, right? Because everybody on social media is, look how happy I am, my family, right. Look at my beautiful daughter ready for school when they didn't post that it took her an hour to get ready right. and fought and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, you saw beyond the, you know, the fakeness of social media that's out there a little bit. And I think it's important to note, you did it intentionally, but not accidentally, I wouldn't say, but you kind of stumbled into just getting involved in the community. That's what I always tell people to do right away is get involved in the community. They don't understand the power of the community of real estate investors. I think, you know, most markets have probably something similar. I feel like we're pretty special here in St. Louis with, you know, the Buyers Club and Faster Funds and Faster Freedom. We got a pretty close-knit community of real people. Everybody you just named is all involved with Faster Freedom, every single person. So, and that's something that we like to encourage our people and our students and everybody to have that mindset of abundance and helpful. And I don't think that's super uncommon. So I would encourage, you know, anybody listening, I say it all the time as a perfect example, get involved in your local community. It makes a huge difference.
I agree. And I think also just knowing like who you can call. Like it's a few times where I reached out to them like, hey, we're struggling, or can you come walk this property with us? And it's just like, you need other people who've already been there, done that to help you get to that point instead of just saying like, I can do this myself. Like, no, it takes a community and you need to surround yourself with people who's doing the same thing, who can help you. Like you can't do it by yourself.
I love it. I love that. That is very important. You cannot, a lot of people try to do it by themselves because they don't know any better. Vanity, maybe, I don't know, but reaching out and having people help you is really only the way to succeed. So,
I agree.
What was the hardest part about, you know, getting the ball rolling for you? It sounds like, you know, you've been through a lot before this, you know, all the stuff you've been through, you know, getting your education, becoming a doctor, dealing with all the things you deal with. This is, it's not easy, but it's probably a cakewalk compared to that. So you've persevered a lot more than some.
I did use that. I'm going to be honest. I did get their perspective from my mind. Like, okay, I survived medical school. I survived residency. I know I can survive this. Like, that was kind of the mindset I had. And Kayola actually pointed that out too. And I was like, I can do this. If I did that, I can do this. So that was kind of like getting my mind ready and having that perspective starting off. Like, I can get through this. I can get through this. And so that was kind of like the initial motivating factor there.
I like it. So what was the hardest part so far? You're gonna spoiler alert. You're gonna have whatever's happened so far. There's gonna be something that's gonna be a lot harder. You're gonna have a tenant do something.
Is true.
You're gonna have a house do something. You're gonna go way over budget. Something's gonna happen, but you'll be fine. But so far, what's been kind of the hardest part for you?
I think the most difficult part, I think estimating the rehab costs, especially going through this first house, I feel like we were kind of in the time period where materials increased. I think labor increased. There was a shortage, like a workforce shortage. So there was delays with getting started. So I wanted to get like 3 or 4 bids. Well, that took like 2 to 3 weeks because people were out because of COVID or were short staffed. And so I think that was the biggest thing. And then I think before I actually got the property, that analysis paralysis stage, like I kind of wanted, like personally, I was like, okay, I was nervous about it, and I kept hearing you and some of the other people say, like, jump out and do it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to jump out and do this.
I love it.
Yeah, but it was kind of like, but I mean, once you do so much, you get, I mean, it's nerve-wracking because it's money, it's time, you know, like it's real life things that can potentially affect you in your life. And it's just like, I don't know, I just like, I'm going to do it. Like I trusted my numbers. I was, you know, going back and forth, looking at properties and looking at pictures. And it was just like, okay, let's do it. Let's pull the trigger and do it. And you just got to get started. But I think that initial point, just like, go. Like, do all you can. Trust your gut. That I went through the mentorship, like all of the curriculum. And that really helped me to launch, too. I think before I joined, I was in that, like, paralysis stage. I think then once I started watching the videos, they kind of boosted my confidence a little bit. And then that's what helped me to just really launch and go. So I think that was that part, just that analysis paralysis. And then once I started, it was just the rehab costs. I think I underestimated. And then just getting contractors, getting all of that stuff because of the workforce issues and COVID.
I like it. Yeah, taking that leap and just having the right mindset, I think, was big for you. And it's not Monopoly. It's not a board game. It's real life. Like you said, there's real consequences for buying. You're not buying something that like is on paper or on the computer. You're buying a house, you know, that somebody's going to have to live in that has a roof, and they see. So it's a big purchase, and I think that's something that over time kind of fades. And for me, it's, you know, I kind of joke I haven't even been in my last 40 rental properties, so it's kind of something that you get a little bit numb to. So I think it's great to point out that, you know, it's, you know, it is a big deal, and it is for sure, but especially at first, and I remember having the exact same feelings. You know, I kind of push past them now, but I remember having those. So dealing with, so why don't you talk a little bit, how did you end up, you know, getting, we'll talk about the deal. We're getting ready to kind of get into your first deal, where you found it, how you funded it, all the numbers, so we don't need to get into the numbers, but how did you end up overcoming that as far as, you know, getting the labor or getting the materials that were short, or, you know, being kind of maybe short on your budget? How did you overcome that? Because so many people say, I don't know how much rehabs cost. I don't know where to find contractors. So I guess just walk through kind of briefly what you did to ensure numbers. Did you get 3 quotes on things? Did you go to find more people? Did you just deal with the first quote you got and moved on? How did you deal with that?
So I got 3 different quotes. That was one thing.
You listened. Hey.
Yeah. Yes, you do. Yeah, because especially like you don't know when you're, you know, somebody may come and quote you like $50,000, and if you don't check with 2 or 3 other people, you might just like jump and go with it, and now you're in a hole starting out before the deal even got started.
Because you don't know, you're like, all right, I guess it costs $50,000. I guess. Yeah.
So yeah, I did have to do that, and so that was some time like meeting somebody there and getting on their schedule, and then some people like, oh, give me 4 days to get the estimate back, you know, to you. So I did stick with that. That was like my thing. Anytime I was getting people to come by to give me costs, I always said at minimum I want 3 bids, and so that was probably the first thing where I was taking my time, but I needed to know myself, like with these numbers. You can come and tell me anything right now, and I won't know. Like, come talk about the heart. I can talk to you all day about the heart and lungs, but rehabbing a house, I have no idea. So yeah, that was the first thing. I think the other thing, the rehab calculator that's in the that's provided with the mentorship in the library, that was super helpful too. So actually, when I went to look at the property, I printed that copy off, and I just started writing down, like walking through. And I just wrote down like, okay, I need to do this, I need to do that, and so that was super, super helpful because I don't know what to look for with houses, and that kind of gave me a nice outline and like prices. So I first did that when I walked the property. Got the bids. I think the other thing, looking back on it too, I know we put in like a 10%, like that little buffer room. I think for new people, like I would probably do 20%.
20,
Yes.
I was going to say 20 is...
Yes, I would probably, moving forward until I know my numbers, I'm going to do 20% because we did go over budget. We'll talk about that.
Well, guess what? You probably still go over budget, even you 20%.
I keep hearing it.
We do. I mean, we've probably done, I don't even know, over the years, a few hundred rehabs, and most of them go over budget. Stuff just happens. So I think the biggest thing would be conservative on, like, I think it's worth this. If you do your comps and a house that's similar to yours sold for 310, 320, and 315, do 300 for your
I agree.
And then putting some fluff in there, and then, purchasing at maybe 70, 75%. So, I mean, we'll get into the numbers now. So actually, let's just jump into the numbers then. Okay. So, or to your first deal. So let's talk about your very first deal. Let's talk about where you found it first, kind of, and then we'll get into funding after that, and then we'll talk about the numbers. But where'd you find this first deal?
This one was through Faster. I keep getting deals, funds, Faster House. No, Faster House.
There you go. A lot
it's
of
one
Fasters.
Of the Fasters.
Yeah, we got Fasters going everywhere.
Yeah, so actually, I found out one through them, and I remember
wholesaler. If you're wondering who that, just a local wholesale company. Yeah.
Yep, and more so, I went with Faster House because I was dealing with people under the Faster umbrella, and it was more so a trust thing. Like, I'm a person, like, once we kind of build trust and establish a relationship, it's kind of like, okay, this is my comfort level. So that's why I decided to go there. And I had met Matt at one of the buyers clubs, and it was just kind of like, that relationship, somebody. So that was the reason why I went through. I was looking at other wholesaler deals, and I'm going to be honest, I felt like some of theirs was kind of like, the ARVs was like way off park. So like, to me, it was kind of like, I don't think I can trust this particular.
You gotta do your own due diligence.
Yes, you gotta do your own due diligence, your own numbers. And I was seeing that, and I was like, okay, I felt comfortable. And then when I was also looking at the deals, it seemed more realistic for me and my comfort level. So, so I found my deal on there, walked the property. Then I went back home, looked at my comps. Used the formula, the ARV formula, all of that, and then I sent my offer over, and then they responded with, this is what we'll go with, and then I kind of, I guess, also gave a range, like, this is the number I'm going to submit an offer on, but if they come back at this range, I'll be okay with it. So I kind of, like, did my own negotiating I can know, like, okay, this is what they may come back with me. What's my breaking point on my comfort level? So I did that with the negotiation, so that fell in line with that. And then I accepted. It was like, yes, so we got our deal. So it was very straightforward, and it was definitely it was nerve-wracking, but trusted the numbers. That was a big thing. I walked quite a few properties beforehand, and I know the biggest thing is don't get emotional with it, especially with your first one where you're so hyped and excited.
You should be teaching the course, not me. I'm gonna retire and let her teach it.
No, but yeah, just don't, like, that emotion. If the numbers don't work, move on. And I keep hearing a lot about this abundance mindset. There are plenty of houses out there. If this deal is not for you, don't worry, like, keep at it. And I think that was the thing. So I saw quite a few. I was excited about, like, oh my goodness, this is going to be our first one. And looked at the numbers like, oh no, this is not going to work out. So don't get hung up on those first few properties that you walk a lot of it, and trust the numbers. Don't just jump into something, because then that's when you're going to have issues. When you're, like, rushing and you're being motivated by emotion, that's when you're going to really kind of mess up things. So make sure the numbers check out what you want, and just be patient. It'll come.
Yeah, I think be patient is a big part of it. And you said a lot of really great things there. The one I kind of want to just piggyback on is there's so many deals out there. People don't understand. They think this is the only deal. This is the best deal I'm going to, ever get. You're always going to be looking for a better deal, and your first deal hopefully will work out, but it's probably not going to be your best deal. You just need to, as long as it works out, you trust the numbers, and as long as, in general, you're going through the method properly and it works out, you're going to get better. So just getting that first one off your plate, because there are just so many, people don't understand how big the housing market is. I think Amazon, Facebook, and Tesla, those companies are worth like a few trillion, and that's just a few percentage of how many houses out there, the housing market in the United States. So it's just, people don't understand how astronomical it is. I own a decent amount of real estate, but Lucas and I will be flying somewhere to a mastermind or something. We'll look down and be like, we'll be in the air, be like, our real estate literally makes up like that block, and there's like 1,000, 100,000 blocks. So it's like, it's so big. So that's awesome. So you found it from a local wholesaler. You had seen several. You trusted your gut. You left emotion out of it. You're obviously crushing it so far. And you funded it through local hard money lending.
Yes.
So why don't you talk a little bit about that? Hard money lenders or private money lenders, those are both great sources.
Yeah.
So this hard money lender, a a local one. How did you find them? Talk about, how you got approved for them and
process,
how it is
yeah.
working with hard money lenders.
So with that, I actually started Googling. Well, let me back up. So I went to a different meetup here that's like all about women. So I love like being around women too,
Yep,
and
love
women
it.
investors. And they actually held a like a financial type at one of their meetups. And so that was actually the month before I started. And so I just went back and looked at what were all of the other meetups that they had, and I saw that they had all these different lenders that were there. It was hard money lenders and local banks. So I actually got that list and started making phone calls. So I called around and introduced myself. Like, I don't have a deal, but I'm a new investor. I'm looking to, learn how to fund my deals, how to work with a bank. And I was just casual, like didn't want anything, just want to like introduce myself. And I think if you call trying to be all, what's your interest rates? And it was like, no, like, I'm new into this space. And so far I would say everyone that I called, they were so welcoming and wanted to connect me to other people, other real estate investors. And I just thought that was phenomenal starting off. And the one that I think it was like the third or fourth one on my list was Faster Funds. And I went to the website. So I also looked at everyone's website to make sure it was like legitimate stuff too. So I did do a Google search in addition to that one. And then just started making the phone calls. And then I have a book at home where I have the bank or the hard money lender listed and who did I talk to, when did I call, and kind of like took notes while I was talking to them. And then I really clicked with Faster Funds with Kayola, and it was just, I was actually on my way home when he called me back. It was like 6:00, and he started sharing his story. I was like, I'm new, and it was just like, okay. So then I submitted everything for my pre-approval, got pre-approved, and then it was kind of like, all right, we're ready to go. So that was kind of how I did it, but I learned so much with calling the different local banks, with Googling hard money lenders. There's a Facebook page too, like, it's local in Missouri, so I did like a search in there, hard money lenders, private money lenders, looked at websites. So I just kind of started making a list of all of that, and I learned so much just from making phone calls and learning about their products, or just hearing people advice and all of that. So that's kind of how I got started with that and finding the funds.
I like it. So did you kind of just through process of elimination and being, I feel like sometimes, doctors and dentists, a lot of these people, they're kind of like entrepreneurial, whether they're entrepreneurial or not, whether they start their own, just having, to do everything that you do. Did you just kind of know to do all that? Did you learn some of that already? Was that kind of, because I believe you got in the mentorship after you did a lot of that, right? So you just naturally kind of knew to double check people, check their website, Facebook page, all that kind of stuff, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think it was, because you're right. I did join the mentorship after that, but I guess for me in my brain, like I was trying to process, okay, if this is a business I'm getting ready to start, like funding, like that's like the biggest thing. How am I going to fund this? How am I going to pay for this? And I think that's where my mind went, was thinking about this as a business. And so that's where I started doing a Google search. And when I, got connected to the local women's meetup, and it's like, let me look and see what other topics been covered at these other meetups. And I just kind of went back in time and I saw that one, and it just kind of aligned with what I had outlined in my brain. So the first thing for me was like education. Like, this was brand new to me. I needed some type of foundation to get started. And I kind of kept hearing these common themes. Oh, you can fund deals without your own money. So then that's where the funding came up. Okay, where can I finance it? Like, people keep saying this, is it really possible? And so then that's when I started doing that on my own. And then I kept hearing a lot about the importance of like networking and partnerships. So I started going to like local meetups in the St. Louis area. And for me, like, I trust my gut feeling too. Like, which one did I feel comfortable at? Who, really who welcomed me there? And, who was friendly? Like, if you just like everyone kind of stuck in their cliques, it's just like, oh, maybe it's not for me. But when I came here, it was like, oh, Kanika, Carl, good to meet you. Good to see you all. And it was just like, okay, this is my people. This is
Yeah, no, I love it. I think that's big.
So that's huge. Like, who do you connect with? You have to, I think you have to trust that part. Those connections in real estate is so huge. And if you're building a business and you want that mentorship, like that relationship and trust, like that part is huge, I think.
Yeah, no, real estate is definitely like most businesses. It's not super special to real estate. It's a relationship business, whether it be develop relationships with mentors, develop relationships with lenders, just other investors, contractors, whatever it is, the relationships are huge.
Yes.
Awesome. I love it. So before we get into kind of lessons learned and your goals and some advice, let's get some number breakdown of your deal. Kind of, obviously we don't need to the penny, but just generally let's walk through what you bought the deal for, how much you put in it, how much is rent for, how much it appraised for, all that fun stuff.
Yes. Okay. So The house was listed for 126, I believe. It was a 3-bed, 1-bath, kind of close to the university. So I really wanted to find a house that was close to like the med school because I wanted to like have some housing for like med students. And then I ended up getting a deal for 120.
Okay.
The budget was 25,000.
How much did you spend?
I went over by 12,000.
That's not too bad. So, yeah, I was expecting to say 40,000, so a little less.
Oh,
than
okay.
40.
So okay, all right. So so
You're
it's not
good.
too bad.
That's not too bad.
I'm not gonna tell my husband all of that because he's like, I'm doing the financial part, and like, we started going over, and I was like, okay, we're hitting 5, we're hitting 10. Let me not tell
Like
him.
Sam said, he expected 40, and we did 37.
I
so
have.
we're
I'm
good.
like, Sam said this, and they say you're gonna go over budget. So yeah, that's what I've been saying. So we're actually right at the point of doing the appraisal for. So actually, we passed our inspection Friday. The appraisal was ordered, so I'm waiting for them to call me to get that scheduled. The banker that I spoke with, we kind of went through some of the other comps, and he's potentially thinking maybe 220, which would be great because I actually went in with 200 with my ARV. So if it's 220, and then a lot of banks are now doing 75%. I can't find too many that's doing 80%. So if it all works out, we'll walk away with like 16,000.
Nice. So you're
if it works out.
pocketing 16 grand,
Yes.
and it's tax free because it's
Yes.
refinance.
Yes.
You're going to have a property that's nice. That
Yes.
you're going to have a great med student in that's going to cash flow a
Yes.
little bit, and that's going to grow over time.
Yes.
And that's your very first one.
Very first one. Learned a lot.
That
But
is
yes.
impressive. I think I want to talk. We'll talk a little bit about having other people and seeking knowledge like you've done in your
Yeah.
entire life, but. You're one of those people that doesn't even really need it. I think the mentorship
do.
will help. I think I'm confident that the mentorship, obviously being my mentorship, will help you grow quicker, more efficiently,
Yeah, I
faster.
agree.
But I mean, you're one of those people that just can pick it up and do it with or without it. But you have the ability to do it on your own, but you also understand the importance of
Yeah.
leaning on other people's experience and knowledge. So why don't you talk a little bit? We don't need this to be a sales pitch, but in
Right.
general, why don't you talk a little bit about just the mentorship and outside of the mentorship, leaning on other people's knowledge and the importance of that to you?
Yeah. I would say with the mentorship, the platform that was created, I felt like I was able to like jumpstart with 3 or 4 years of knowledge. Cause like I was like looking at Bigger Pockets and like following people on YouTube. And, I was doing all of that, but I felt like what was put together in that was like everything was there. I was able to jumpstart in jump 3 or 4 years ahead with like all of the experience and knowledge that you all shared with that. So to me, and I also love the videos were like 5 to 6 minutes. It wasn't like you're sitting there for a whole hour. Now I will say I like to listen to things on like 1.5 or 2. So my husband and I, we can't watch the videos together. Med school issue, like
I feel like I talk fast and mumble. I can't even imagine listening to me on 1.5
yes,
speed.
I
I
have
would be
to. Like I
so
just
annoyed.
like I cannot sit there like listen to something on normal speed. Like I feel like someone is talking just like this, and I can't get it. So I have to listen to X speed. So my husband, we have to watch it separately,
Okay.
because he can't get it. So like for me, I got through the library pretty quickly, and I like would take my notes, but like that's normal to me. I also talk fast sometimes, so I feel like that platform, and then also just access to. We didn't know anything about rehabbing, so there's videos about rehabbing, all of the. I guess the documents that you all use, like the lease agreement, operating agreement, like it's all there. So I felt like that just saved us time, that we didn't have to try to put all that together ourselves. Like we were already presented with this package. Like, here you go through it, invest the time in learning this, come to the mentorship, the phone calls. And I agree, like that's something that I need. And it was there for me. So I feel like it just kind of gave us a leg up over somebody else who may just be starting it. So that was why I felt it was really, really important.
Yeah, and I mean, you're
Yeah.
like the prototypical perfect student. I mean, somebody that has the drive and ability to kind of
Yeah.
do it, but that's the whole purpose and the whole goal is to help you get from point A to point B just a little more efficiently, a
Yeah.
little bit less headaches, a little bit quicker, and so you can do more and scale and create that wealth and financial freedom. So
Yeah.
speaking of that, what is your goals in real estate? What is your goal? You got one pretty much cross the finish line, you're close. How many do you want to buy? What's your goal for real estate? What's
Yeah, we're actually starting on our second rehab.
Okay.
So yeah.
Where'd you get that one?
Through Faster House.
Nice. Local wholesaler. It's just
A
about
wholesaler.
relationships.
Yeah,
Faster House, there's
and you
plenty
know
of
what? And
Faster
I
Houses
do
out
like working with wholesalers. I will say, so we also purchased a property like the traditional way that was on an MLS. And I'm going to be honest, I really didn't like that process, especially starting out. Like, it was a headache working with, it was a big bank that we went through. So that was a headache. I mean, it was constant like, submit this paperwork, do this. And I mean, it was just like a headache. It took us about like 60 days to even to close. But like that process, like it was a headache going through that. So for me, I think starting off, I liked working with a wholesaler. It was straightforward. It was negotiable. I mean, it was just kind of like, boom, we got this, went to close 2 weeks later. I think one property took a little bit longer, but that was one thing like I would definitely recommend, like go through a wholesaler, like especially with the first few deals, and work with a local bank. Or hard money lender, or private money lender. So my personal real estate goals, I would say next year I hope to I want 12 properties next year. I know it's kind of like,
That's doable. You're going to do it. The deals
I
are going to be
hope so.
easier to come by next year, I'm telling you. So
Okay,
if you have the
perfect.
long-term mindset, you know,
Yes.
you're buying houses on sale, they're going to go up in value. Interest
Yeah.
rates, just make them work. You can refinance when they lower because they're obviously going to lower eventually. So you can do 12. All right,
Yes.
so what's the long-term goal?
I said before we started, we had 0, and now we have 4. So
Dang.
we got, well, one of them, I don't really know if this would count, but one of them was like his old house that once we like purchased our house, we made that a rental. So I kind of felt like, okay, that was a house he had, but we got it up and running. We have a tenant in. And then we purchased one off the MLS traditional route. And then we got our last 2 through wholesalers. So the end of this year, we have 4 properties, started in January with like 0. So
Nice. Hey, Dakota, you good with counting that first one? All right, we're going to
You
count the
count it?
first
Perfect.
one 4.
Okay,
Dakota,
we got
Dakota
4.
said yes. So you got 4. So
Yes.
your goal is to get to 16 next year.
Yep.
Okay.
I
And
would- yes.
what's the goal in 5 years?
Oh, 5 years? I didn't
Let's
think that far. Okay.
Throw it out there.
Throw it out there. 30 properties.
30 properties.
5
It's
years.
gonna
Yes.
it's recorded now, so you
Okay.
better stick to it.
30 properties.
We're gonna send you, and I'm gonna put an email out, send you 5 years, make sure you have 30. Which I think if you get to 16 next year, you got 4 more or 3
Yeah.
3 more years to get the other 14. You will do that for
Thank
sure.
you,
And I
thank
think
you.
as you start to see it, I think maybe I know you're a very driven person. Your goals will start to expand. I think
Yeah.
30 is an incredible goal. I just know for me, having these goals, it seemed big, and then you get there, get close to it, then you just keep expanding your goals.
Yeah.
So I think the sky's the limit.
I feel
for
like
what
one
you wanna
thing
do.
like I'm really focusing on now, I think going through this first deal, like I learned so much, and I think personally where I'm at, I'm really focusing on building our systems. I feel like I learned a lot about the importance of having your system in place. And I think once we get our systems, like I really feel like then we can grow and scale, because it's, we were learning with this and knowing who to go for this person, getting a GC, all of that. But I'm really seeing the benefit of having a good system in place. And then also I think we went into this thinking like, oh, we can do some of this rehab. Not really when when both of us are working full-time jobs. So I think that like reality factor set in, like, either it's time or money, and we didn't have the time. So I think I had to spend a little bit more money to be able to really get this, continue to go with this, because we thought like, oh, we can go on weekends. But like I work some weekends, he worked weekends. It was just like, no, that wasn't realistic. And I did have like a seasoned, like older investor was telling me like, you know what? Your first few properties, don't try to do it yourself. Like you need to be focused on being an investor. You're not a GC. And it was just like, you know what? You're right. So I think that's the other biggest thing too that I kept saying. I mean, if you have time to do that, I think that's great. It'll save money. But us in our personal situation, I think we had to use extra money because we didn't have the time. So I didn't want the property to sit and use the money or waste time trying to watch YouTube videos and put in a backsplash. Like, just pay somebody to do it.
I agree 100%. So
Yeah.
you've given a ton of really, really good advice. So what is your number one piece of advice for somebody that's wanting to get their first property? It can be emphasizing something you've already said. It can be bringing in a new, whatever you think your number one thing, and you can cheat a little bit and you can give 2, but what is your number one big thing that you
Number
would
one
say
thing-
for somebody that I want to get into real estate, but what's something I can do to make the most impact?
You know what? I would say get involved with like your local community. Like there's so much like power and encouragement just being surrounded by other people who's at all different levels of their investing journey. That would be my main advice. Just embrace and just like consume yourself with people who are in this community, because you're going to pick up different nuggets. You're going to pick up different, just different things just being like in that community. But I also felt like that was something that really motivated me when I felt like going through this first property. I'll jump on those mentorship calls and I'll hear other people ask questions, or, this person's struggling with this. So it's kind of like you struggle together, we grow together. So I think that'd be my one piece of advice. Just get involved in that community, immerse yourself, start building relationships, because there's so much power in that. And I think just inherently when you're around that, family motivates family. Like get involved.
I love it. That's awesome. So I've decided before we sign off here that your goal is 50 properties in 5 years. So write that down.
Wait, I said 30.
I decided as your mentor that it's 50. It's
okay,
a round
it's
number.
50.
It's a better number. And
Okay, I can do it.
1,000% you can do
Okay,
it. Because
I can do
30
it.
was just, it was too little for me. You're gonna be over halfway there next year. So
Okay, all right, 50
is your
it
new
is.
goal. Got it. Awesome.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. I don't think I know that, people listening and watching have learned a lot, and I'm excited to be a part of your journey going forward.
Thank you.
Awesome. Appreciate it.